Hannibal Johnson, author, attorney, and consultant.
Clifton, Taulbert, entrepreneur, author.
Phil Armstrong, project director for the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial Commission.
I would argue that's in the midst of a renaissance. It's sort of Black Wall Street 201 as opposed to 101. So it's not coming back as an exclusively black business and entrepreneurial enclave. That's really not possible because social, economic, political dynamics have changed dramatically since the height of Black Wall Street, and since the Black Wall Street community as a black enclave was buoyed by segregation. It sounds ironic, but it's true. It was a community of necessity. Segregation really helped that because it forced black dollars to circulate in the confines of the community. And once dollars started flowing outside the community because goods and services were more widely available at different price points, it undermined the financial foundation of the community. Today, it's an integrated community. It's a mixed use community with housing, with commercial development, with entertainment, with cultural institutions, with educational institutions, with religious institutions. It's really a community in search of kind of a new identity in kind of branding terminology, but also in search of unity. The one thing I think that the community has going for it strongly right now is an agreement that we need to leverage the rich history of the community. And that's where Phil can talk about Greenwood Rising, the world-class history center that we're building. The idea is that that will be an homage to our history, but it'll also be an inspiration to future generations of folks who want to be entrepreneurs or who want to be creatives that are successful. That's the goal, that we can use our history as a jumping off point to spur a new iteration of Black Wall Street.
You know, one of the things, and I know you're going to talk about Greenwood Rising, but one of the things that I think will happen, hopefully, is that black entrepreneurs that I work with literally throughout the country, that they will try and figure out, how did you become an owner in 1910, 1915, 1921, when you didn't have access to the amounts of money that are available today? And it shows to me that foundational piece that black people can be on the ground floor of things. And that to me is very, very important, because that's the sustainability that goes from one generation to the next. That's what you pass along to your son, to your daughter, to your cousin, your nephew. And I think just showcasing the history, and you can't showcase the history without telling the story, that these were not renters, but these were owners. And we have the capacity to do that. We had it once, we have it now. How can we bring that to bear? And that to me is one of the great lessons that I hope evolves out of this, is that black people, no matter where they are, will recognize that I can be on the ground floor of this.
It's actually, it just ties so well into some of the language that the Centennial Commission has used as we get closer to the debut of Greenwood Rising. I've said many times, what once was can be again. And Greenwood Rising, we did not start out this, and I should be, make sure I give proper credit. When Senator Kevin Matthews started this in 2015, we didn't start out this commission saying, hey, we're going to build a history center. It was, what can we do to commemorate this history? We're 6 years away from the worst horrific racial incident ever occurred on American soil. What do we have to show for it? And so the community then started submitting ideas, and literally this is an organic process that has come out of the community. What can we do to really highlight the fact that there are some things that still need to be addressed? And we're almost 100 years away. And a trip was taken early on to see the National Afro-American Museum that debuted, the Smithsonian in DC. And the surprising thing for those that went is that there is an entire room, an entire dedicated exhibit to the 1921, as it says there, Tulsa Race Riot, with artifacts, they're telling our story. And as grateful as we are that, hey, the world can go there and see it, the thought coming back was, who better to tell this story than the community and the people with which this happened? You know, it's great that's happening there. 25 million visitors went to the National African American Museum in the first year. And the thought that Senator Matthews said, if we could capture 10% of that just by us telling our own story. And so that really began the way of a history center, and then it just grew from there to where we have Greenwood Rising, 11,000 square foot facility to tell the story. And it does not, the one thing I want to highlight, Greenwood Rising does not diminish any other organizations or any other aspects of this history. It actually elevates everything that's here. People will come to Greenwood Rising, get this history and all of its wonderful storytelling and even the grittiness of the massacre. But then, you leave Greenwood, where do I go from here? I've seen the history, now I can walk the history. Leave here, go across the street and see the historic Greenwood Chamber buildings. Walk up the street and go see Vernon AME Church, the last surviving structure that's still here from 1921. Go across the street, go see the Survivors Gallery in Greenwood Cultural Center and the mural that's there and the 1921 memorial there. Walk across the parking lot, go to John Hope Franklin Center Park. Go see E.W. Woods, Booker T. Washington Memorial. Go to Standpipe Hill. People will come here and see all of this history and can spend a full day enjoying. So it adds to the fact that not only Greenwood Rising and the resurgence of the black economy that was here and pride and educational awareness, but just the entire city is saying we have a treasure in a tragic history as a backdrop, but can be utilized to bring the world here to learn from it, to be enlightened from it, and then go back to their other communities and say, well, how can we do that same thing here? So I think it's going to inspire generations to come in many more ways we could ever imagine.
One of the things that Hannibal has said, and which I think is very, very important, when I first heard about Black Wall Street, I was here in Tulsa, but my office was on the campus of, it was called Tulsa the Higher Education Center at the time, that comprised OU, OSU, and Langston.
University Center of Tulsa.
Yeah, University Center.
UCAT.
A group of photographers, filmmakers like yourselves had come from Germany. And if I'm not mistaken, it was Don Ross's son that said, Clifton, you need to be in this interview. And they had more information. I lived here, had been in school here, graduated here, and they had more information than I had ever heard. And that's what spurred me to realize. And they were from Germany.
Yeah.
They came from the German version of our PBS on that. But data sparks you, gets your attention. But it's the stories that you tell that really gets your heart.
Yes.
And when you get your heart and mind connected together, that is when you do something that is bigger than yourself. As I said about my daughter dying, that's the hardest thing in the world. But 10 years later, we created a fund to send all the kids in Oklahoma to camp every summer that has sickle cell disease. Very quietly we do that. That's the story that comes out of the tragedy. And that's what this is all about at the end of the day.
Yes.